morning. Good morning. Good to see you here on this beautiful, bright, shiny day. We are getting sunshine today, and I understand we might crack 50 by late afternoon. We are really looking forward to that. So, spring has been really teasing us this year. So thank you for joining us for this special time this morning. I don't think we have any newcomers in the house, do we? Anyone brand new? Don't think so. We have some old timers back with us. It feels new. Jim and Judy back with us. Welcome home. And Joe and I are your musicians today. We'll do a couple songs here in a minute. And of course, we want to thank everyone online for joining us and all of you for your ongoing support of the church. Those donations that keep coming in through PayPal or checks in the mail or through the website keep us humming along, and we are grateful. I always like to start with just a few announcements, just so you know what's coming up. And it seems like there's a lot coming up. After the service today is our once-a-year annual meeting, a little update on how the church is doing. It's always a very short meeting, right, Paul? Right. Like, half an hour or something like that. And it's just a good way of kind of a packet of slides. We just sort of run through how the church is doing, what kind of a year we had, what activities, events, things we did, and what's coming up this year, and an opportunity for you to share ideas or ask questions. That's after the service. We'll go back for half an hour or so. Refreshments start by maybe 11:45 in here, and it'll probably be over by 12:15. Next week is Easter. That's hard to believe. It really came up fast this year. We have our usual lily sign-up at the back. If you'd like to donate a lily for this service, you can still sign up today. Those will be purchased sometime this week, probably. And they'll be on display here next Sunday, and then you can take it home with you after the service to enjoy at home. We're wrapping up our winter food drive next Sunday, so if you still want to bring something in, haven't had a chance to yet, you can bring it next Sunday, and then we'll make sure that all gets to people in need of Delaware County. Our friends at Unity of Columbus wanted us to spread the word. They're having a spring health fair at Unity of Columbus next Saturday, April 6th. So it kind of runs all day, 9 to 4. And it's Unity of Columbus, 4211 Mays Road, if any of you have not been there before. There's a flyer on the bulletin board in the back. It's like traditional and non-traditional health practitioners will be available, and it sounds like it might be an interesting and helpful day. So keep that in mind if you're looking for something to do next Saturday, the 6th. On the 7th, Dana Horton will be guest speaking here. That's in 2 weeks. His title is, It's Not Bad Weather, Just Bad Clothes. I like that. He always has a catchy title. That'll be fun. And finally, just a reminder of the solar eclipse is coming up on Monday, April 8th. I'm sure you've all been tracking it, lots of information about it. We are in the path of totality this time. Won't happen again for another 100 years, I think. So it's a special thing to be in that path. We traveled out of state the last time it happened, so we went to Illinois so we could be in the path. So our church is going to be open that day for people that afternoon. So if you want to go someplace a little more spacious than your backyard or something like that, we'll be here. The doors will be open, and I think that it begins to happen around, I don't have that before me, but the partial starts around 2 something, and then it's only like 2.5 minutes at maybe 3:05 or something like that. That's when the total eclipse is. And you have to have those glasses. So I brought some today, and if you haven't gotten them, but you really have to have them. I was reading an article in the Times about people who they get spots, in their vision problems, little black spots, from looking at it with just sunglasses or looking at it with the naked eye for even 5 seconds. You can injure your eye. So really important to have those solar eclipse glasses. And I talked longer than I thought on those brief announcements, but that's it for right now. Maybe while I'm at it, I wanted to mention too, Paul Wessner, our board president, and Rick Curtel were working hard here yesterday filling those potholes out there with gravel. Like me, you all felt a difference driving up that. Some of those potholes were getting pretty deep. So I think the plan is to put some asphalt on those later on after it warms up, but it helped a tremendous amount too. We didn't go bouncing up and down, did we?
We did not.
All right, let's begin to think about getting quiet. Take a breath. Let's all take a deep breath. Begin to become center and become still. Become quiet within and alert to that presence in us. Begin to think about what we are lifting up in prayer. Begin to think about, my title is about seeing today, about seeing the light in one another as well as in ourselves. This is a Karen Drucker song. I see your light. I hope you'll join me second time through on these verses. see your light. I see your beauty. I feel your heart when I see you smile. Just like that. I see your light. I see your beauty. I feel your heart when I see you smile. You are enough. You are worthy. You are loved just as you are. You are enough. You are worthy. You are loved just as you are. You are loved. I am loved. Together we are never alone. I see your light. I see your beauty. I feel your heart when I see you smile. I see your light. I see your beauty. I see your heart when I see you smile. Let's allow ourselves to become even more centered and still, aware of that power, that presence that abides in us always, that we are one with at our deepest core, that presence of love, of light, of wisdom, of beauty. In these quiet moments of prayer, we see that in ourselves and in one another. In all those we are lifting up in prayer, we see that light of God within them. We see it in ourselves, and we know this is the truth of our being. We are one with the divine, with that great intelligence, that deep well of wisdom, that steadying peace, that renewing life that is God in us. We see that in ourselves and in one another. How grateful we are to know this is the truth of who we are. The shifting conditions or circumstances, challenges never take away from that highest truth of who we truly are. So in these quiet moments of prayer, we hold this vision in our minds, in our hearts, this vision of ourselves, of one another, of people everywhere in our communities across the globe, of living beings everywhere, the power and presence of God that dwells within each of us, that life of God, ever renewing. We are ever beloved, and we are grateful. And so it is. Amen. All right. Thank you, Joe. Well, we were thinking about songs about seeing today, because my title is to see and be seen. And so we thought of this wonderful song by Tom Kimmel. How many of you remember Tom Kimmel from his visit here? It's just a beautiful singer-songwriter from, is he in Nashville now? Is it?
He's living in Memphis.
Memphis, okay. And this is a beautiful song of his called, I think it's a Cable song, isn't it? Called See Myself in You. It's a beautiful song. So shout out to Tom Kimmel out there somewhere. Come back and visit.
Hi, Tom. If I met you on the corner, would I know you as you are? Would I take you for a stranger and brush past you in the door? If you call me, would I hear you, or would I walk away too soon? If I lingered for a moment, would I see myself in you? If I fought you as a soldier, if I had you in my sights, would you ask me to remember who imagined I was right? If you witnessed my surrender, do I know what I would do? If you held me like my brother, would I see myself in you? Well, I dreamed my end was near, I was almost gone. If I dreamed that dream from here, can I still come home? If you call me, would I hear you? Do I know what I would do? If you held me like my lover, would I see myself in you? If you held me like my mother, would I see myself in you? Thank you, Tom.
Beautiful song. So thinking about seeing. So as always, I like to find a joke that has some bearing on my topic. So these are sort of eyesight jokes, optometrist jokes, something along that line. Do you know why optometrists never use tape measures? Because they're really good at eyeballing it. Why were the teachers' eyes crossed? Why were the teachers' eyes crossed? She couldn't control her pupils.
These are good.
Okay, this is a light bulb joke. I may have used this before. How many optometrists does it take to change a light bulb? 1 or 2? 2. And finally, this was Joe's favorite. One woman is saying to her friend, she said, I used to date a man with a lazy eye. And the other woman said, why did you stop? She said, he was seeing someone on the side. That's a good one. To see and be seen, how we see each other. It's actually a deep spiritual concern. It's a deep spiritual issue, how well we see each other. I was reminded by this. I caught an interview with and then took a look at his book, a book by the author David Brooks. What's his title here? It's called How to Know a Person, The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen. I was really drawing on that today because I thought there was so much in there that we need to kind of look at again, how important it is to really see each other and to be seen, each of us. It's a very, very deep need. It's certainly a hallmark of all our great spiritual teachers and way showers, their great capacity to see, and it comes out in all the scriptures. As you read through the gospel accounts of Jesus' healing, teaching ministry as he moved around, he saw everyone across all boundaries. He was an all-inclusive seer because, of course, he was modeling the love of the divine and what it looks like flowing through a human being. And it's all-inclusive, no boundaries, no judgments. He saw everybody. He saw the socially ostracized and excluded. He saw the culturally ostracized, like the Samaritans, the mentally ill, the social outcasts, the tax collectors who were just despised, the Jews as well as the Romans. He crossed all boundaries. He saw everyone. He healed everyone. He shared his gifts with everyone. He was modeling the impartial, all-inclusive love of God. So I've always loved that there were many Hebrew names for God in the Old Scriptures. And one of them is called El Roi, the God who sees me. I've always loved that, the God who sees me. And the first time it's used, I think, is in Genesis about this slave woman, Hagar, who had been abused by her owner or master and had fled into the wilderness and was alone and ostracized and had nowhere to go. And God saw her. And she addresses El Roi, the God who sees me. And he promised her, he was present with her and promised her a better future. He saw Moses in the wilderness when he was on the run after killing an Egyptian and fleeing. El Roi saw him out in the wilderness, promised him a brighter future, a heroic future. He saw Jacob, who had fled, having stolen his brother's Esau's birthright and was on the run, and he's sleeping with his head on a rock, and he has a communion with God. El Roi, the God who sees me. So that's the kind of seeing we're talking. Modeling the love of God means you see everyone. You see the precious. You see the unique, beautiful soul in each one. The God-infused soul in everyone, as well as in ourselves. And we don't often or regularly see one another in that way, do we? It's a challenge for us. We see the surface things. We see the personality. We see the other things, not the core of who we are. Seeing is really critical to our lives in lots and lots of ways. Certainly critical to our personal development. I don't think there's ever been a child who didn't say, "Did you see that? Did you see me? Did you see? Are you watching? Are you watching me? Did you see?" Very, very important to be seen, to be paid attention to. Nothing is more important than that. I have a memory, it was my very earliest church memory was at the New Thought Temple in Cincinnati. And my mother found that church, saved her life finding that church, because there were a lot of troubles at home. But she found that church when I was probably 4 or 5, somewhere in that year. And it was a lovely church. The Reverend E.V. Ingraham was the minister, and his gracious, beautiful wife, Alvinette, always at his side. And after the service, they would make a fuss over me. Precious child of God, that's what they saw, every child. And she would take me up to the altar and let me pick a flower out of the flower arrangement on the altar. Very special, made me feel very special, acknowledged, seen. Very important. And we don't always see that. And I've over the years in ministry, I've really kind of developed a sense that quite often, when we have troubles in adulthood, just many times it goes back to having not been seen enough, not having been seen enough when we really needed to be seen, because that sticks with us. But the grace of being seen can make up for a lot, and we often remember those precious individuals who really did see us. A precious teacher, a loved one, a grandparent, somebody saw how special we were. And that's nourishing at a deep level. We thrive tremendously when we are seen, and we can have significant issues when we're not seen. Seeing each other is a matter of public health. Being able to really see each other and feel like we're being seen is a matter of public health. I read a book not that long ago by our Surgeon General, Murphy, and he talks in there about we have a kind of a loneliness crisis going on. More and more people feeling very isolated and alone and disconnected from others. There's been, among researchers who track these things, there have been increases in depression and suicide, and feelings of loneliness and isolation. They've all been increasing. And particularly among younger adults, under 30, there's been a real increase in those kinds of things. And a lot of suggestions that our technology plays a big part in that. If you're on your devices, you're not connecting with other people. And that's particularly, we all do it to some extent, but particularly younger people can spend hours and hours a day on devices. Apparently, researchers say we should average a good 34 minutes a day actually interacting with others in person. And people say we are lucky, we get a few minutes. It's not happening as much as it should. So how do we deal with that? How do we change that? David Brooks, in his book, How to Know a Person, The Art of Seeing Others Deeply and Being Deeply Seen, he talks a lot about the cost of this, but also about the powerful results when we do feel like we're being seen. And he believes that these are social skills that we can learn that we've not been being taught in recent years, and we really need to get back to those, such as our lack of conversational skill. And he talks a lot about that in his book. According to his research, 70% of people do not ask questions in interacting with others. Do not ask questions. They don't show curiosity about others, and as a result, they're quick to make judgments or believe stereotypes. They don't ask questions to find out who somebody really is, and probably because of that disconnection and feeling of uncomfortable, not knowing who our neighbors are. And he calls people who like that, he calls them diminishers, because that's how we feel when we feel invisible. We feel kind of diminished. We're not being seen, we're not acknowledged. And I think we've all had probably an experience of that. Have you ever gone to a gathering of some kind and then come home later and think, nobody asked me a single question? Felt kind of invisible? Anyone ever feel invisible? I think it's a common enough experience in all of our lives. He says it's only about 30% of people who ask questions and are curious about other people and eager to learn more about them. It's a social skill. He calls them illuminators because we feel lit up when somebody is really seeing us and listening to us. And it inspires us. We want to talk more. It brings out our best selves we want to share because we are being seen, we are being listened to. Illuminators. These are very strong, lots of steps we can take. And they're really social skills we can learn to try to do better at getting to know one another, at seeing one another, and being seen ourselves. And there's a powerful reason to make the effort, because I think there is a really strong, greater sense of being disconnected from each other right now than there has been in the past. I was thinking about how I can kind of track this in my lifetime. I grew up in a small town, which maybe makes a little difference in that, but I don't think it's just that. It's like, looking back on my youth, I'm sort of amazed at how much human contact there was. Just in the course of a day, in the shops and the stores you went into, people weren't shopping online, they were going out around town, going in and out of shops and stores. My mother's beauty shop was a beehive of activity, always. Lots of stories being told, compliments shared, some gossip being shared, all of that going on. Lots and lots of that. Nobody was on their phones. See, nobody was on their phones. They weren't, at their computers. They weren't. There wasn't the disconnection that there is now. Technology has certainly brought us many conveniences and help. But there's been a downside, there's been a cost in the way it has isolated and separated us too. So Mr. Brooks says about how we do this getting to know you better. When it goes well, what does it look like? I was getting to know you. Do you remember that old song? I was looking it up. It gave me a moment of nostalgia in the middle of the week. I remember being taught that in music class when I was a kid. Sure. You want to sing it together? Getting to know you, getting to know all about you. Do you know the next line? No. Getting to like you, getting to hope you like me. Do you know what that song was from? The King and I, absolutely. King and I, which I think was on Broadway first, but it was the movie version with Deborah Kerr and Yul Brynner, right? That came out, I think, 1956. But it's funny, that song really kind of captures what Brooks is talking about. you know, the joy and the excitement of really getting to know someone when you interact. You know, wanting them to like you as you like them, and you're growing in that as you get to know one another. That's kind of what we want to get back to, and I think that's kind of what Brooks is talking about in his book. So what are the hallmarks of a good interaction, a good conversation? He says it starts with the gaze, how we look at each other. He says, you know, it starts right there, and a whole lot is determined in that first moment you look at somebody. A whole lot. He says we have these sort of unspoken questions in our minds when you meet someone, or you go up to converse with someone, especially with a new person. The questions in your mind are they really interested in me? Am I a priority? Am I respected? Do they really see me? Do they want to know me? And then the way they look at you is going to answer that almost off the bat. We make very quick judgments on the basis of that. And it starts right with that. Are we being seen as a unique, interesting, special person that they're looking forward to getting to know, or not? I used to kind of joke about the kind of a cocktail party way of seeing one another. You know what I'm talking about? Where you're sort of talking to somebody and then they go, oh, hi, back to them. Oh, hi, good to see you. It's kind of very distracted kind of conversation. We get a lot of that in our interactions, don't we? Because there is so much distraction in our life now. A lot of it is phones. We might be having a conversation, but then somebody gets a phone call and then you totally forget where you were. Getting to know you, we have to look at each other. We have to really see each other. He talks about another trait of really getting to know, being able to get to know someone well, is a matter of more accompaniment. Not anything you particularly say, but the way you just show up, the way you're just present with someone, particularly at a time when that's really helpful to them. Keeping company, being with, not about anything you do or say, but about showing up and being with someone at the right time. I bet we've all had an experience of that sometimes. He told a touching story about a college student, a friend of his daughter's, I think, and this young woman's father had died of pancreatic cancer. And in a couple months after that, she had to be a bridesmaid at a dear friend's wedding. So she was in the wedding, and you know, the reception, and there's the toasts and so on. And she was doing pretty well until they were going to do the father-daughter dance. And they got up to start the father-daughter dance, and she realized she was going to cry. She had to leave the table, so she went off to the restroom. And when she came out of the restroom a little bit later, her whole table was waiting outside the door just to give her a hug, just to be there with her at a tough time. Never forgot that. Those kind of moments where someone is there for us. I remember a time, it was my first pet loss, I think. I had a dear cat named Wally, and died in an accident outside suddenly. And my dear friend Joanna just came over, and she brought some soup and just sat with me for a while. That kind of thing you don't forget. And that's not about anything special being said. That's not about any wisdom you have. It's just about being able to just be with, to keep company. So the gaze, how we see each other, how we accompany each other. I like thinking of that as how one accompanies at the piano too, or at an instrument. It's not about you. It's about supporting others. Your choir or your vocalist, whoever it is, Michael knows this very well. It's about being there in a supportive way. It's a great blessing. It's a great blessing. So then he talks a lot about conversation, real conversation, which most of us are probably not as good at it as we think we are. And I just thought these are some of the tips from experts that he drew into his book. Tip number 1, 2 people making statements at each other is not a conversation. It's true, and we do that a lot. We think we've got things we need to share, and they're really important. And sometimes we're planning that next thing, that we want to share, even while they're talking. So it's not making statements isn't a conversation. A conversation has build to it. It grows. New ideas emerge as a result of the interaction and what you're sharing with one another. Attention must be 100%, not the cocktail party kind. But 100% have to be focused on who you're talking with. David Brooks likes the idea of, he thinks it's helpful to be a loud listener. Yeah, little responses that show you they're engaged with what you're telling them. So a loud listener, but not so loud you're overtaking their talk, what they're sharing with you. Tip 5, don't fear a pause. Let there be a pause in a conversation. Sometimes, does it ever feel to you like we're just in a big hurry? You've got to get your remark in really quick. You've only got like 10 seconds to get it in there, like soundbite. And there can't be any silence or it's going to get filled in even before you finish your thought. So don't fear a pause. Don't be too impatient to get your reply or your response out there. 6th point, don't be a topper. Which I thought was a kind of eye-opening. Don't be a topper, which means sometimes somebody will share something and we'll think we're relating to it by sharing a similar experience we had. That might seem like it's relating, but quite often the way it plays out is you're taking over the conversation. You're topping, you're bringing the attention back to yourself instead of really listening and seeing who's sharing with you and letting that really resonate with you. Don't be a topper. And then he was, 7th point, I think this is maybe one of the best ones. It's like when you're talking with someone, invite narrative, invite a story. Not yes, no questions, not quick, that call for like sort of quick formulaic responses. How was your week? Good. How are you feeling? Great. Which kind of all just dead end after dead end. Instead, ask some good questions that really kind of call for a story, call for a little bit of a narrative. He had some really good examples of stories like that. What gift do you have that you're not using very much? What gift do you have that you're not using? What's the no you keep postponing? I think that's an interesting one. What's the no you keep postponing? What do you want to say no to that you're not saying no to? This is an interesting one. How do your ancestors show up in your life? It's interesting. And I like this one. If this 5 years of your life were a chapter in a book, what would it be called? What would it be called? That made me think of a dear friend of mine, Mary Olson. Some of you might remember, she came here sometimes. She was probably a good 10 years older than I, further along than I, and she's passed now several years ago. But I remember talking with her once and asking her, I was early in my 60s, and I was fond then of calling the 60s like power decade. I don't know where I read that, but the 60s are really coming to your power. And I was thinking, 60s is the power decade, Mary. And I said, what would you say the 70s are about? And she said, letting go. And I thought, that's really interesting. She'd had to let go of a lot. She had to give up her home and move into an assisted living center. She had to give up where she lived. She moved to another state to be near her son so he could keep an eye on her care. She had to give up all her belongings, her furnishings that couldn't go with her. A lot of letting go. And we were able to talk some about that. So asking a question that kind of gives you a story can really help you get to know a person better and where they are in their lives. And then Brooks makes a really strong point about how we converse across divides, divisions among us, differences in viewpoints. He said, and the key thing is asking questions, repeatedly asking questions. And if there's not an understanding, say, well, what am I missing here? What's your viewpoint about this? What am I not getting? And tell me more, and tell me more, and tell me more. And he says, every time you do that, it's going to go deeper. You're going to get more. You're going to get to know better, and those seemingly impenetrable divides, they're going to lessen as you get closer to an understanding of who you're talking with. I think it's really interesting. He talks about, I'll wrap it up with this, but as in every conversation, there's a kind of an emotional flow beneath the words, beneath what's going on, and we're always in our conversations and our interactions, we're always making each other feel seen and respected, feel safer, or we're making each other feel less safe, less respected, less seen. It's going on all the time, regardless of the words, really. And we don't even have to say any words in terms of how we look at each other or are present with each other. So it's something to pay attention to, that emotional flow that's going on all the time. And he says the essence of morality is to cast a just and loving attention on the people around us. And I think that captures it nicely. If we can look at one another with that kind of love and awareness that we're each precious souls, that'll take us a long way toward knowing each other better and feeling like we're all being seen and seeing each other. Amen? Mm-hmm. Let's take that into prayer for just a moment. Feel our gratitude for the presence of God in us that makes each of us unique and precious. We commit ourselves to remembering to see ourselves in that light moment by moment through the days and nights before us, and to see one another, to see our loved ones, our family, our friends, our community with that same awareness, each precious souls and channels of the living God. Thank you, God, for your unfailing presence in our very midst, now and always. Amen. All right, well, we are going to do another song for you. And as Joe comes up and changes his tuning a little bit, this is in drop D. Don't ask, I don't really understand it myself. I'll tell you a little bit. We heard this song in Ireland when we were there, whenever that was, 2018 maybe, something like that, by a songwriter named John Spillane, who we got to see in person. There is a quirky, really interesting Irish singer-songwriter. And it seemed perfect for this time of year because, as Marian Jakes told us online, the cherry trees are beginning to bloom in certain parts of the country sooner than here. But this is sort of about a celebration of the cherry trees and the coming of spring and congratulating ourselves for making it to another spring. The dance of the cherry trees.
We were treated in Ireland to a private concert with John Spillane,
Yeah.
quirky guy who could always introduce a song. I wrote the song entirely by myself from start to finish.
That's right.
Let me tell you about the cherry trees. Every April in our town, they put on the most outrageous clothes and they sing and they dance around. Hardly anybody sings or dances, hardly anybody dances or sings in this town that I call my own. You have to hand it to the cherry trees, and they seem to be saying, to me anyway. You know, we traveled all around the sun, you know it's taken us one whole year. Well done everyone, well done. Cherry blossom in the air, cherry blossom on the street, cherry blossom in your hair, and a blossom at your feet. You know we traveled all around the sun, you know it's taken us one whole year. Well done everyone, well done. On behalf of me and the cherry trees, well done. Well done, everyone. You know me, sometimes I think I'm getting old, not as young as I used to be. It means even more to me to see the dance of the cherry trees, and they seem to be saying, is it only to me? You know we traveled all around the sun, you know it's taken us one whole year. Well done everyone, well done. You know we traveled all around the sun, you know it's taken us one whole year. Well done everyone, well done. On behalf of me and the cherry trees, well done. Well done everyone. Well done. Well done everyone. Well done everyone.
Lovely, John Spillane, beautiful song. Well, now we're going to have our board president and platform host today and pothole filler, Paul Westner, come up and share a few things. Thank you, Paul.
Let's start off by thanking Joe and Joanne for the wonderful music. want to thank you for your wonderful message this morning, helping us to see beyond ourselves. So thank you very much. Joe always comes through as our AV technician, so thank you, Joe. And our fellowship angels, I always look around to see who disappeared. And I thought it was Barbie and Linda Wesner, but I'm wrong. It is? Oh, okay, got that right. Okay, just a real quick recap on what's going on here at the church. As Joanne mentioned, our annual meeting is this afternoon. We'll probably get started on that about 11:45. All are welcome, and we look forward to just giving you some ideas about what's going on at the church and what we have, a little recap of what we did in 2023 and what we're going to do in 2024. So please come if you can. We also have a lily sign up. Easter's next week. If you'd like to make a donation for a lily, we'd appreciate that, and that's at the back table. We're going to wrap up our winter food drive, so if you have some things that you'd like to bring in and share with others, we have boxes at the back of the church. Dana Horton will be speaking here on April 7th. Look forward to having Dana back again. Always has a very good message for us, and so we appreciate that. And then finally, our solar eclipse on April 8th. It'll be interesting to see. You know, there's all kinds of predictions about the roads being busy and that type of thing. It'll be interesting to see if we get as much attention to it as we did the last time. So,
If you come to the church, bring a lawn chair.
oh yeah, that's right. So you'll have a seat. Were there any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, why don't we group up for our peace song?
You don't need it.
There's always more people at the end than at the beginning. We'll link him in this way, Lana. Yes, come on toward the center.
I'm waiting.
You're linked, virtually linked. Okay.
There you are. Looking all over for you.
I don't need volume.
All right. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as Creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let's join together in our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And so it is. Join us in the back for fellowship and refreshments.
Guitar went off. It did? Yeah.
John, maybe you should leave it hooked up in case. Well, I don't think Paul will need to use the microphone.
For what?
Our annual
Oh,
meeting.
well, okay.